This is Best Wrestling Podcast with your hosts, John McDonald and Matt Fitzgerald. And it begins now.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Best Wrestling Podcast. Hanging out tonight with Matt in studio. And guess what, guys? I'm all by my lonesome here tonight. Jonathan is down with a bad case of the flu. So you get to hang out one-on-one with the great one tonight. Shouldn't say that. That sounds actually pretty rude. But, excited to just hang out with you folks here tonight. Talk about wrestling. Talk about maybe some Raw. Talk about some Smackdown. Give you my thoughts on what's been going on over the last couple of days. And let's have some fireside chat as we discuss the beautiful, beautiful world of sports entertainment. One thing I'm really excited for, I don't know about you, but I am genuinely looking forward to Money in the Bank. Now, myself and Jonathan, we, of course, do the podcast. We let you know about what pay-per-views we think are great, what ones are a miss. We've had some poor ones over the last little while. I think Backlash was like the worst pay-per-view, really, of all time. And so I'm thinking Money in the Bank is going to be fantastic. I don't know about you, but I like ladder matches. I think that what's going on with the female division right now is really exciting. And I think we might start to see some new things develop from the male superstar scene. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to see where this Jinder Mahal Roman Reigns feud goes. Some people are saying, is he bumped down the card? I don't think so, but we'll see what happens. But it's interesting to see him not in the Money in the Bank ladder match scene, and so maybe he doesn't have that shot at the title for the next little while. Of course, Brock's not even defending the belt. Looks like they're going to give him the old green light when it comes to passing CM Punk's record. We're going to talk about CM Punk here a little bit as well, so hold on tight. We'll save that for a little bit later. But I think that it's cool that Brock is fighting Jinder Mahal. I'm really looking forward to that match. I think it's going to be a good match. I think that Roman is a really good worker. I think that Jinder still needs to do some work. There's a lot of people out there, that are haters and they're drinking haterade. I would say don't hinder the Jinder, of course. I think that he is a good worker. He's got to grow, of course, a little bit more. But I think that this is going to be a really, really good match. And I'm excited to see, is this going to get booed out of the arena? Is this going to be people walking out, or is it the right place to put Roman? I know for the last pay-per-view when we saw Roman versus Samoa Joe, and they put it on last over the title, and they were just basically resting on the mat for a long period of time in their headlocks, people were furious. I actually think that people were starting to really get rebellious before the match even kicked off, and I can understand why. I sympathize with that. I think that they're getting rebellious because it's a smart crowd, and they understand that, listen, like we've had enough of Roman Reigns in the main event scene. He just lost at Mania, so you're jobbing him out, and all of a sudden now he gets the main event spot again with Joe for really, which is just a grudge match. There's no even stipulation to it. I think it was maybe DQ. And then for Roman to come out and win kind of 1, 2, 3 clean. I don't understand why you needed that at the end of the card. You could have just easily had that mid-card. I don't think people would have revolted if it was mid-card. I think it has to be where it needs to be. And so this Jinder experiment is going to be very interesting because are people going to boo it regardless? Let's say it's versus Jinder, who people, they don't love. They're kind of torn. The crowd is torn on him. So it's not like you're putting him against someone again like Joe, where people love Joe. And so people are going to boo Roman just because even though Roman's supposed to be the face and Joe is the heel, people are still going to boo Roman because they like Joe. And then you put it at the end of the card and it's horrible. But you got a situation now where it's Roman, who people don't like, versus somebody which the crowd is kind of split on. So are people going to get on the bandwagon and just boo it for the sake of booing it? Or are they going to come out maybe first, maybe halfway through the program, and are they just going to have a normal match where I'm thinking Roman's going to go over, and maybe we can start to have the crowd accept Roman a little bit. I think where I'm afraid where this is going to go is that it works. So they both come out. Roman's not booed out of the building. okay match, mid-card. It's not supposed to, maybe steal the night, even though Roman's a great worker. And then it's, the crowd responds to it the way that they should. We can call it that. But in 4 weeks later now, if it's announced that it's Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar in the main event at SummerSlam, you got to give this stuff some time. You just got to give it some time. Let Roman kind of sizzle on the sideline for a little bit, put the spotlight on somebody else, and allow some new star power to be built. Speaking of the Money in the Bank ladder match, I was really excited that Joe, essentially tapped out Brian. I guess it's not really necessarily a tap out, so he kind of saves face there a little bit because he just passed out. It's not like we saw Daniel Bryan tap, but regardless, for him to get the clean victory over Daniel Bryan, I think that says a lot. I wouldn't be shocked if Samoa Joe won the ladder match. And I'd be cool with that too, even though we've already seen Joe versus Brock. But then, I guess now we're talking SmackDown, so would we see Joe versus Styles? So I'm excited. I think that we are going to see Joe go over. And I think that they actually do have it now where you win a title shot at your respective brand. And so maybe we would see some AJ Styles versus Joe, which would be great. If you guys were TNA fans, I thought they had some incredible matches when they were in TNA. Some of the best matches, to be honest, probably of their careers when I would say they were in their prime. If Jonathan was with me right now, he would be arguing with me and saying that, now is more of their stride. But Johnny, if you're listening to the show, brother, you got influenza. It's my show tonight. I get to talk about how Kurt Angle, AJ Styles, and Samoa Joe, that's right, they all hit their prime in TNA. And that's all I'm going to say about that. We're going to move on. So I thought that was a really good match. Don't really know what's going on with Big Cass. Kind of disappointed. I feel that the whole push situation is a bit of a flop at this point. It looked like there for a while that he injured his knee. But he's back, and now he's feuding, I guess, with Daniel Bryan again. Gave him a vicious big boot. What is it with the big boot? Don't you agree that the big boot is the most boring finishing maneuver of all time if you are 6'5"? It just seems like if that's what you do. You just give people the big boot, and that's your big, oh my God, finish. And I think it's just boring. So he kicks his head in with the big boot. Been there, done that, because he's tall. And now I guess we're going to see them continue their feud, even though Daniel Bryan tapped him out in the middle of the ring, clean, and then Big Cass just beat him up again. And so I don't know where Daniel's getting used in this situation. Maybe he's going to put Big Cass over at some point, but I mean, he already got Big Cass to tap. And so I feel that ends a feud pretty quick. Like you just tapped out, unless, now we're going to do some no holds barred match or I quit or last man standing match. So we'll see what happens there. I think I liked Big Cass when he was with Enzo. I liked Big Cass when he was with Enzo and their soft gimmick way more than what I like him right now. But that's just me. And also, friends, he is in the big sweaty men category. That's right. He's tall. He's sweaty. He's big. And so you would think that I would be all about it. And I know what that category is all about because that's my claim to fame when it comes to favorite wrestlers. That's how I sequence them. And so if he's not doing a good job in my category and I'm not even, marking out, then I can only assume that he's trash based on my one sole opinion, which is how it rolls here sometimes at BWP. And so not overly excited about that. But, speaking of last man standing, speaking of grudge matches, we're going to get AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura again. And I'm okay with it. I feel that they haven't knocked it out of the park yet with their match. I know that everybody thought at Mania it was going to be the 5-star match. It was going to steal the show. I don't feel that it lived up to the hype. And then we had Nakamura turn heel, which I thought was really cool. The whole me no speak English and low blow gimmick. That's kind of funny. But they've had an opportunity now to put on that 5-star match, and they just can't do it. I guess my question rhetorically, as I speak to myself here tonight in the studio, all by my lonesome, would be, is there too much pressure? Or have we just overrated it? Did we ruin it ourselves as fans? Did we overmark out? Did we commit marking out suicide by shooting ourselves in the proverbial foot because we just expected this match to legitimately blow the roof off every arena that it was going to be in. I think people hyped this match up so much that even despite the fact that WWE does not use pyro, there was just going to be pyro coming out of these gentlemen's eye sockets. That's how fired up we were for these guys to have a 5-star match. And I think we wrecked it. And so I'm going to go on record here tonight in Edmonton, Alberta, the city of champions. I'm going to go on record saying that I think their match at Money in the Bank is going to be lackluster as well. I think AJ is going to go over, and then we're just going to shut that feud down, which I think is okay. It's time for that. They had their opportunity. I mean, they're still great, don't get me wrong, but I think that it's time to move on, and maybe we'll see Joe versus Styles, a little bit out of their prime, Jonathan, but going to be a great, great match nonetheless. And so I thought Raw was okay if we transition to Raw a little bit. You got Finn Balor smacking Braun in the side of the head. I thought that was pretty cool, but really my attention was on SmackDown. I thought more cool things went down on SmackDown. Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax and Nia getting up in her face. I just feel like it's childish right now. I'm excited to see their match. If they make Ronda job, then that's going to be sad. Jonathan has a theory that maybe Nia will come out before the match and just toss Ronda around, and that's how Ronda will lose. But I think you got to protect your all-star like that. But I also think that putting the belt on her right now is a little bit premature. And you just did this huge buildup with Nia being this savior, this individual that crushes bullying, crushes it like Ukraine, it crushes bullying. And now she's a bully. So, and just odd booking. I don't know if Road Dogg is in Gorilla, just maybe writing down on a legal pad some of his thoughts. But if so, Michael Hayes, you got to get in there and change some of this booking if Road Doggy Dog is doing it back there. Because I think it's bad booking. I think that Nia Jax, to flip like that, I mean, she's essentially the Big Show now, folks. Nia Jax is the Big Show. She's just flipping from heel to face. And now all of a sudden she's the bad guy. Ronda Rousey, I think, versus Nia Jax. How good can the match be? I could be proven wrong because obviously the match at WrestleMania with Ronda Rousey was the best match of the night. So maybe they'll put on a great match. But I think to put the belt on her is a little bit premature. I want to see her win it a different way, like maybe at a SummerSlam or something. And I don't think like Nia versus Rondi. I don't think Nia versus Ronda Rousey is the best matchup. I think Alexa Bliss versus Ronda Rousey, awesome. Asuka, awesome. Charlotte, awesome. I just don't know if Nia can work that great in the ring. She's just more tossing people around. And I think someone with Ronda, like I want to see Ronda throw arm bars. I want to see Ronda do some cool, power moves that I don't think that Nia is going to be able to take. And so that's what I think of that match. I think that Raw sometimes is lackluster for me because I want the Universal Championship on the program. I'm actually tired now of Brock having the belt. I'm hoping when this whole the whole amount of time that he passes because they want him to take the record away from CM Punk. I'm hoping when that record's broken by like one day, Brock loses the belt and we can have some new development with the program because I think it's time to have some new development. I want to see people fight for that championship. I want to see back and forth all the time, not just okay, hey, it's SummerSlam, the general manager. And now it's going to be this person versus Brock Lesnar and a match is called out of nowhere. Like, I don't like that. Like, I want to see stories. I want to see stories being told over months. And then we have this big feud. I don't like it when they just tweet things out. Like, hey, everybody, big tweet in Tweetsville. Randy Orton now versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. It's like, okay, but there's no story then built up. And then there's a little bit of story afterwards, but I digress. So it's going to be interesting to see what plans out there. Once again, I am excited for Money in the Bank. There are some question marks. Carmella versus Asuka. All I can say, ladies and gentlemen, fans, loyal fans of Best Wrestling Podcast, is that if Carmella somehow beats Asuka, then we all must murder ourselves. No, that's too extreme, but it's going to be really bad. And I mean, they've already had Charlotte job out to her a couple of times. And so I hope that we're not going to ruin Asuka already. I feel bad for Asuka. I actually think that Asuka is losing her steam and her star power because we're putting a lot of focus on Ronda Rousey. Do you know Asuka can't do the armbar anymore because that's now protected by Ronda Rousey? Makes sense. But I just feel that the thunder that came with Asuka is now kind of dunda. That's my way of saying done, like thunder. And so I'm hoping that Asuka wins, and I'm hoping that she gets the belt. And this Carmella thing is maybe just a little transition period. So that's what I really hope happens there, because I think you got to get that belt on Asuka. You know, Carmella's fantastic. She's very entertaining, but the belief is just very bizarre. Like, I can't suspend my belief when she is the champion and she's going over on people like Carmella or people like Asuka, when those two people had the biggest lead-up feud to WrestleMania, and then Carmella just comes in and grabs the belt and wins. It's like, what? It doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of my take on Raw and SmackDown. Hey guys, also let's talk about some cool things in the news. Did you know that Punk with Cabana are in their trial for the legal dispute, the lawsuit that's going on with the doctor there? I believe his name is maybe Aman, if I'm saying that correctly. So I think this is going to be interesting to pay attention to. And so if you don't know the story, of course, CM Punk got on Colt Cabana's podcast and ranted a little bit and really just told the story of what was going on and why he left WWE. And he really threw a man, if I'm saying that correctly. I apologize to the fans and the listeners if I'm not. But he essentially threw him under the bus, folks. Under the bus. And talked about malpractice. I guess CM Punk had like a staph infection that was like huge on his hip, which is gross. And then he got a second opinion, and the doctor said he could have died. And so, but now a man is suing him for malpractice, which is very interesting. And so, don't know what's going to happen there. I'm just assuming that CM Punk and Colt Cabana are probably going to walk away from it, and maybe there'll be like a settlement. I think it will be done like pretty quick. I think it got moved there a little bit because CM Punk has his UFC promotion coming up, because of course he's fighting back in UFC, which is pretty exciting. I hope he does win his match. I hope it's a bit of a Brock Lesnar story, although he'll never have the star power as Brock Lesnar, but I hope that he does win his second match. Brock came in, of course he lost his first match to Frank Mir, and then he won his second match against Frank Mir. And I know that CM Punk is not fighting that Mickey gentleman again, but I really do hope that he wins his second match, because I would like to see CM Punk more in UFC. And I think if he loses his second match, especially in the fashion of the way that he lost his first one, then I don't think we're going to see CM Punk in the UFC anymore. And so one more quick news story here as we transition to the end of the show. WWE stock, my friends, I hope you bought it, because apparently it's going sky high. It's hit new records that it's never hit before. I think it's trading now on the New York Stock Exchange at $60 a share. And most likely that's because of the new deal with Fox. And so for those of you that are listening to the podcast that are the investor savvy type, hey, you might want to check out WWE stock. You know, who knows? Maybe they'll sell Raw over to Fox as well, and that thing will just continue to climb. You could be the wolf of World Wrestling Entertainment, because you could just be trading WWE stock and making a fortune off the back of Vince McMahon. But other than that, folks, that's the Wednesday show. Just quick reminder, BWP coming to you every Wednesday now. Something you can count on, something that's consistent. Also, very cool information. We're going to be moving the show as well over to YouTube, so you can get to see our pretty mugs a little bit more. We're going to be doing it via web conference. Now, those of you that are listening to us on iPod, Google Play, Stitcher, and Podbean, no worries. We're still going to upload, of course, the podcast to those great platforms, but we're also going to be uploading it to YouTube with the conference feature. And so if you like video, if you like to see myself and Jonathan poke fun at each other, if you just want to see what we actually look like, the faces behind the voice, then you can tune into the YouTube channel as well. And so tomorrow, myself and Jonathan, we're back in studio. We're going to be recording that issue as an MP4 file, uploading it to Best Wrestling Podcast on YouTube, and you can check it out there. Once again, we would absolutely love it if you could give us a like, if you could give us a subscription, a 5-star frog splash, as Jonathan calls it, 5-star frog splash rating. I believe that's his terminology. I'll have to ask him tomorrow when he's back in the office here, but it would definitely mean the world to us. It helps us get ranked. It helps us get more exposure. We see our Instagram numbers climbing all the time. We see our analytics on the podcast climbing all the time. You know, shout out to those of you that are listening to us in the UK, those of you that are listening to us in Australia, Australia, the Gold Coast, New Zealand. Like, we see the downloads coming from all these incredible places that we've never even been to yet. And we just appreciate the fact that you appreciate BWP. So once again, friends, check us out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Hit us up and download us on Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play. We are Best Wrestling Podcast. Jonathan will be back in tomorrow. I'll get to tell him about how AJ Styles is no longer in his prime and Samoa Joe is also no longer in his prime. And Kurt Angle had the best matches in TNA. And we've only just begun.